It's March the 18th, 1944. Finnish soldiers ski at high speed through the trees, deep in the snowy forest behind the Soviet lines. Aimo Koivonen, from the 4th Company of the 4th Detached Battalion of Finnish Special Forces, lays the tracks in the snow for his comrades following behind. Not too far behind is a much larger Soviet force giving chase. He's trying to go faster, but the Finns have been on a 3-day mission and it's taking its toll. His body's beginning to fail him in the most crucial of times. Feeling tiredness washing over him, he hears, "Aimo, don't sleep," from one of his comrades behind him. He's giving it his all, but it's simply not enough. The Soviet soldiers are creeping closer and closer by the second. Desperate, he pulls out a bottle of Pervitin, a supposed wonder drug supplied by the Germans, meant to increase combat capacity when exhausted, but very dangerous and addictive if abused. We know it today as methamphetamine. He knows the risks, but has no time to think about it. He thinks if there's any moment it should be used, it's now. Dumping the contents of the bottle into his mittens while on the move, the pills come out in a clump. Out of time, he eats the entire bunch. Aimo feels energized as the pills take effect. He feels himself speeding and getting faster. Now he's dashing through the trees with blazing speed and fearless commitment. Soon enough, they leave the Red Army soldiers behind in the snow. The company stops to weigh their options, but Aimo is not well. He's acting erratically, looking in every direction, stumbling and seemingly hallucinating. His comrades are completely puzzled. Still in danger, they cannot sit in place for very long. Platoon commander Heikki Nori orders his men to scatter and regroup elsewhere. The men obey, melting into the trees. Heikki looks worriedly at Aimo. He takes the ammunition pouches from him as Aimo continues to hallucinate, fearing he might shoot one of their own. Then, Aimo runs away from him into the wilderness. With the Russians still on their tail, Heikki has to choose between protecting Aimo or regrouping with the rest of the platoon. Aimo! With no real choice, he picks the latter and reluctantly leaves Aimo behind. Time passes and he starts to come around. Opening his eyes, he finds himself in the middle of nowhere, laying on the snow. He has no food, ammo, or any idea where he is. Standing up, Aimo is still delirious but just starts skiing. He wanders aimlessly through the forest when suddenly something moves in the trees. Soviet soldiers burst out of the foliage, weapons in hand. Aimo turns to flee, but only stumbles and falls into the snowy ground. He's hell-bent on not being captured, but there are no Soviet soldiers, just the wildlife of the forest. These apparitions happen over and over. Several times he would see people, hear Russians shouting, and then find himself alone moments later. Through it all, he pushes on, skiing to wherever destiny may lead him. Emerging from the trees, he sees a base with smoke rising above it. He runs towards it, overjoyed to finally find civilization, until it too vanishes into thin air. Where he could swear he saw a Finnish camp, now was nothing but snow. Heartbroken, he continues on his journey. He can't stop skiing, and he carries on. Over the crest of a hill, he spots figures gathered around a campfire. Germans! He's saved! Brimming with happiness, he skis down the hill towards the camp. But as he approaches, he gets a better look. Those aren't Germans. Those are Soviet soldiers. He's going too fast to stop now, so he speeds up instead. The Soviets see the approaching skier. Thinking he's a messenger of some sort, they carry on resting in their camp. Aimo races into the camp and flies right through. The astonished Soviets see him go past, and then suddenly, they realize Aimo is wearing Finnish gear. Jumping up, they rush for their weapons and give chase. Aimo finds himself once again on the run, racing through the forest with no aim or direction, fleeing from any Soviet troops that might be on his tail. He keeps it up for a full half an hour, skiing non-stop, even as the wind and snow pick up. Aimo pushes through the ever-worsening weather, even as it grows into a proper snowstorm. Barely able to see 2 meters ahead of him, his pace slows to a crawl. But fueled by meth, he carries on, making his way uphill while blind as a bat. This carries on for 2 more grueling hours. The snowstorm slowly subsides, revealing his surroundings. Looking around, he realizes the hill he was standing on. He recognizes it. It's 100 kilometers away from where he last saw his comrades, but it was something. Night was falling upon the woods, but now with renewed determination, he took out his compass and headed out again, this time with a purpose. He keeps on and on, moving through the woods the whole night until his energy runs dry. With the sun rising, he finds somewhere to sleep. By the time he awakes, the sun is beginning to set. He had slept through the whole day. Thirsty and hungry, he gathers pine buds and starts a fire, brewing the buds into a makeshift gruel. It's 2 whole days since he last ate a sandwich for breakfast, so he finds the sour mush oddly delicious. He feels tired even as he eats, and things start to get dark, and he falls asleep in the snow. When he comes to his senses back at his base, his friends greet him happily and lead him to a huge feast going on. He eats from everything, delighting in the selections, much to the glee of his comrades.
Oh, herkullista.
Then he wakes up. It's nighttime. The woods are quiet. The fireplace is all but extinguished, and his bowl is on the floor with a bit of mush still in it. He is heartbroken, but shaking it off, he summons his sisu, a Finnish concept of toughness and perseverance, and gets back on his skis and gets moving. Between the woods, he stumbles upon a good friend.
Hey, Aimo.
They greet each other and have a nice chat as they make their way through the fir growth. They sit to take a short break before heading off again.
Tankinmäen alla. Mä hiihdän sitä kohti niin nopeasti kuin mä pystyn ja toivon, että mä pelastun. Mutta voi pojat, miten väärässä mä olinkaan. Se saksalainen tankki olikin neukkuja tanhuamassa kasachokkia.
As he walks, he suddenly realizes he can't hear his friend anymore. Lucidity hits him and he turns around. His friend has vanished, and so has his weapon and his backpack. He checks himself, taking stock of whatever he still has. His compass is still with him, as well as the empty tube of Pervitin. He doesn't remember taking all 30 pills, but can't think about it for very long. He gets moving again. Hours later, he sees a light, a window with a light inside. Hope. He runs towards it, pushing branches aside as he rushes towards salvation. But the images of houses slowly vanish, leaving him staring at a tree with a bright star shining through its branches. He breaks down. He's angry, heartbroken, and shouts into the air and cries, cursing his luck and the drug. Then he is suddenly shoved to the ground. A wolf bites into his arm, trying to get to Aimo's throat. Panicking, he pulls out his knife and desperately stabs the wolf as he fights for his life. Then once more, he wakes up. Opening his eyes, there's no wolf and no knife. He's punching a tree with something in his fist. His compass is now broken. Aimo stands there dejected, but he can't just sit down to die. He must push on. He gathers himself and once again continues his journey, determined to find friendly forces. The very next day, he stumbles into an abandoned cabin, but at least it's real. The door is open, as is the tradition in that part of the world. Tired and still delirious, he makes a campfire in the middle of the cabin, lights it, and heads to sleep. He feels hot. It's warm in here. He must be too close to the fire. He moves away a bit and falls right back to sleep. Sometime later, he feels hot again. He moves again, eyes still closed. Then it happens again, and again. He hears the crack of crumbling logs, and he finally opens his eyes to check what's happening. Jumping up and out, and barely escaping the inferno, Aimo can do nothing but watch as his shelter burns to a crisp in the dead of night. The next day he gets moving again and finds an old road covered in snow heading to the west. He follows it until he finds an abandoned German camp. He's excited and once again heads for the entrance,
Guten Tag.
this time shouting greetings in German. Nobody answers, much to his disappointment, and he decides to head inside. Leaving his skis, he walks into the compound when suddenly an explosion sends him flying through the air. He's just stepped on a landmine. His foot is badly injured. Using a ski stick as a crutch, he hobbles towards a dugout. Prying open the door, another bomb explodes. He once again flies through the air and lands 30 feet away. He comes to his senses. The dugout is destroyed. Pieces of wood are scattered all around him. He rips his shirt with a nail found on the snow and uses the cloth to wrap his mangled foot. Gathering splinters of wood from the explosion, he lights a fire. Then he lies in the snow, watching his surroundings. The reality of his condition hits him, and he weeps. There's nothing to do now but wait for rescue or death. Hours of laying in the snow later, he decides to make a fire. Aimo stretches to grab as much of the wood scattered around him as possible for the campfire. And on it, he boils some snow to get some water. As it melts, he uses a plank he saved to clear the snow around him. Once the snow was clear, he uses the plank as a bed. He spends several days lying on the snow, surviving off the water he boiled. A Siberian jay lands next to him, examining him. Aimo raises his ski stick and hits the bird, killing it. He plucks the feathers and eats it raw. Days later, he hears a bang and Finnish voices. He perks up and shouts for help.
Ei, tulkaa takaisin.
One of the soldiers spots him. Our patrol commander is wounded and you're in the middle of a minefield, the soldier informs him. We will bring our commander back first and then we'll tell HQ about you. Aimo can't believe what he hears. They can't just leave him there. The soldiers carry their commander and leave, their voices and steps getting quieter and quieter. They just left him there. Aimo thinks he's been left to die. Sometime later, he hears something else, a plane. He sticks his hat on his ski pole and waves it around. The plane flies over and disappears. Aimo is once again left in the snow. He doesn't know it, but the pilot has seen him. Later, he hears more voices. The Finns are defusing the landmines to get to him. Overcome with emotion, Koivonen knows his bad trip is over and he'll live. He was found a staggering 400 kilometers or 250 miles away from where he left his comrades. On the 1st of April, 14 days after he took the pills, Aimo Koivonen was admitted to hospital. Weighing only 43 kilograms, he still had an incredible heart rate of 200 beats per minute. His injuries were serious, and he was in a hospital bed until late 1944. Eventually, he would leave the army due to his injuries, having lost some toes on his left foot. Despite the hardships he endured, he lived a long life and died peacefully on August 12, 1989, at the age of 71. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and please watch more videos of ours. Thank you.